Welcome to Cove, Wellbeing and the My Trauma, Your Trauma series with me, Owen Morgan. I want to share my trauma journey and that of others. We will also look at the world of trauma healing, support and research, including guests who specialise in helping those overcome their trauma. My Trauma, Your Trauma is here to explore human experience. Welcome to Trauma Chat, when we invite on a guest to talk all things trauma. Please watch and listen with care. Some of this content may be triggering or may make you feel uncomfortable, so do press that stop button and take a break. Always put yourself first. I'm a mental health advocate sharing my lived experience. I'm a massage therapist, a wellness audiobook addict, very hard to say that sentence, and a stepdad to my amazing 4-year-old. I've interviewed hundreds of wellness experts and people with stories of overcoming their wellness struggles. I myself have suffered with childhood abuse from childminders, severe school bullying, a deep depression in my 20s, and blackout anxiety. Also, a life-threatening illness in my early 30s. I want to give a voice to those who can inspire others to improve wellness. I'm very excited today because I'm here with Elias, Abdel Ahad of Osteo, Sofia. Elias is a holistic therapist who believes that we are our own healers. Therapists are there to trigger the process. He is an Osteopathic Manual Practitioner and a Rhythmical Massage Therapist. And I told Elias I get this wrong, Anthroposophist. I'm going to get him to say it in a second. And he's dedicated to spiritual science of healing with over 20 years experience as an international therapist and workshop facilitator. Quite an intro, and I hope I got that right, Elias. Could you just quickly tell us how I'm supposed to say the A word?
The A word is anthroposophy.
Anthroposophy. Okay.
Anthroposophy.
Okay. Anthroposophy. Okay.
There you go.
I've got it. I've learned something already on this conversation, which is great. I just wanted to welcome you to the show, and I want to thank you so much because I know today I'm going to learn things I don't know about, and I'm really grateful for you for creating this space. So how are you today? How has 2020 been for you so far?
Well, good morning, good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for this opportunity. And I really appreciate it. Well, 2020 has been honestly really amazing. It's been very fruitful and productive. I know we've been in lockdown here in Canada, Toronto, for like 3 months, and that was the best time ever. I started a functional medicine program by the beginning of the year in January, and I was like a bit worried, how will I finish it with all my workload and seminars and other stuff? And then boom, COVID hit. I stayed at home. I was just like studying, researching. To me, it was perfect timing to really just concentrate on that, concentrate on myself, and take it a bit easy on that. So yeah, to me, it was good.
That's the thing, for many of us, there's been a lot of pain, obviously a lot of suffering, but for so many of us, it's been an opportunity to reflect and look back on what we've done up to this point. Like you said, study. I know lots of therapists that take the opportunity to finally get their studies up and running. So it's been an opportunity for growth, restoration. I'm hoping we can all come out of it, hopefully feeling a lot better than when it started. So, looking at it from a positive mindset, that's really, really exciting. So I'm really excited to talk to you today because, like I said before, we're going to talk about a few things that haven't come up before. And this is series 3 now, so some of it's for the first time. And I'm really looking forward to diving in there. We'll find a little bit about your story in brief, and then we're going to dive into all kinds of things. I'm really, really excited for that. But before we do that, do you just want to let the audience know at home a little bit more about what you're up to at the moment, how your work looks? Because I know you've got lots of modalities in there.
So I work in psychotherapy settings with 2 other amazing psychotherapists, and we get like referrals from psychiatrists, psychologists, and other psychotherapists as well. So we really work, and we get the approach of the mind and body. And I will talk further about this approach because, now everybody talk about like, oh yeah, mind-body connection, but like literally what it is, like how the trauma lives and the mind and the psyche, like how they are all different and how the body always keeps the score. and like how the muscles always stuck everything, and how the loop always continue to come back. And so to me, it's been really a journey. Even before moving to Canada, I was in Kuwait and I was working in a psychotherapy setting as well, doing just manual therapy. Mainly here, I have referrals for, like, if I may say, desperate cases of like severe pain. And another thing that I would like to shout out is that, like, whenever someone comes to me and they have pain in their shoulder, it's been for 5 years, they have seen all kinds of therapists, no one treated their shoulder. Trust me, it's a referral pain. Look for someone else. So to me, having this like mindset, and I'm really trying to keep always an open mind that like everything is possible, helps me a lot with my approach through my whole range of clients, from trauma to addiction to physical health to mental health. Like it's really amazing once you have an open mind how things just like unfold in front of you. It's like and again, like, about my background, I have a BS in physiotherapy from Lebanon. I studied acupuncture, shiatsu, and then I did like spiritual healing and Reiki. And then Switzerland, I did anthroposophical therapy, which is the rhythmical massage. And then I moved to Canada, and I studied manual osteopathy. I studied hypnotherapy, and I developed a specific course that I teach at the osteopathy school. It's called Sofia, which is the wisdom of the body. And yeah, so this is where I am now. And like, as I said, with COVID, I jumped deeper into the functional medicine. So it's good to have this like openness and try to help more.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think it's so powerful to be like yourself, to be open to, learning as much as you can from as many modalities as you can, so you can provide that space for a client with this big wealth of, understanding of human experience. Sometimes people can get very caught up in their modality style. This is the only way. And it's really nice to train as much as you can, so you can, especially from a trauma perspective, because it's not as simple as you have this and then it goes away. It's that's not how it works. And it's just so wonderful that you have that in there. And what I found really interesting is because I know you have all the body work qualifications in there. Obviously that's my background, so seeing someone like me in body work but go on to all of these other things must be just so powerful, to see, like you said, with the referred pain. A lot of people don't realize what's really going on. I guess you're in a position, hopefully, with all of that, to be able to see that for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And like later on, we will talk about it, about like how depression does not always start from the brain or from depression. It could have any other like referral from an organ or something else. But anyway, I'll keep that for a bit later as a teaser.
Yeah, sure. We've got a lot of questions today. As the audience know, we always have lots of questions, but this particular episode is jam packed with amazing insights. So we need to flow with as much ease as possible. So I ask every single guest that I have on the show the same question. So you're going to get it too, which is, for you, what is your definition of trauma?
Well, trauma to me is like a shock or an incident that could happen to you, or could happen to you like personally, or could happen or inflict any of your senses. Like, some people can see it, some people can feel it, some people can hear it, and they feel inflected by it. And the way to me it happens is like when it really goes above or below your window of tolerance. Okay, like every person, every individual have its own window of tolerance of things. So you can see someone being, sorry for the word, killed in front of you. You might just walk away. Some other might faint. Some other people might just attack the guy who did the crime. So you can see it all depends on your window of tolerance. So to me, trauma is really whenever this window of tolerance have been really taken to its higher limits and beyond, which is like the fight or fright, or just below and they cannot take it, and that is the freeze response. So mainly, this is how I would see it. And as I said, it's also related to the senses, like even the sense of touch. When someone is burned, like the skin has been taken to a different window of tolerance, and that's it. Those people will be always afraid from hot water, from the sun, from everything, like even from fumes that can trigger them. So it's very interesting how the brain always stays into that aspect, and how we get triggered by things that are related to the trauma, um, uh, uh, that are related to the thing that caused the trauma. Like I had a client who was she was not being able to see the color red because it was so triggering to her, and like she would really go into this very deep like anxiety attack. And then throughout the session we were talking about it, and she mentioned one of her teachers at school, and I was like, what's your teacher's favorite color? And I have no clue how this question came to my mind. It's not that like I'm always a Jew. And she said she used to always wear red. So once she realized that the color red relates her to how much she was beaten up and bullied by that teacher, her anxiety just like eased up. And of course, I sent her to the psychotherapist who referred her to me, and like things were much more easier in her therapy and her recovery. So again, it's like it's the color red. It's not related to bullying, or it was just like that when her teacher used to wear it. So it's very interesting how the mind reacts to all those stuff.
It's so interesting how it stores information, how it then protects you for future environments that you're in, be it body and brain. It's absolutely fascinating how that pans out. People can be triggered by senses of smell, triggered by tones of voice based on an abuser. And sometimes they're not even aware that they have a trauma history as such until those things come to mind. So it's the body keeps the score part of it, and that includes the mind too in there. And thank you so much for mentioning the window tolerance too, because that's come up on a few shows, but not necessarily within that question. So thank you, because as you grow through your healing journey and you become more resilient, your window tolerance can shift and change. And so people need to know that they're not destined to just have that kind of window of tolerance through daily practices. They might be able to build it up. So thank you for mentioning that. It's really powerful.
You're welcome. And again, like the window of tolerance changes every day, every second, because it's related to your prana, to your chi, to your etheric body, to your life force, and how much it's been eaten and condensed by your desire, by your thrive, by your consciousness, because the consciousness is a part that kills us. Like too much light kills you, and same for the brain. So it's always good to like take your third space, take some time for yourself, not all the time with family and studying, or family and work. Find like at least half an hour just to have a breather for yourself, even if it's a nap. Like just go for it.
Quite. Well, it's funny you say that, because obviously I've had, as we know before we start this call, I've had a crazy day. So we took a bit of time just to center me again. So I 100% know what you're talking about today. Sometimes life it gets a bit on top of you, and it's knowing that actually the most important thing you can ever do is create those windows of time where you can, reconnect with yourself a little bit. So yeah, totally relevant today. That's for sure. So I know the majority of this episode is going to be talking about the modalities and various other things. So I know we're not going to talk about this for too long, but have you suffered any mental or emotional health challenges in your lifetime that led you into this work, or how did that look for you?
What led me into this world, it was like pure accident. Like I was 18 years old, looking for a workshop, looking for summer job, and there was this woman coming from Tibet who studied with Lobsang Grandpa, who's like one of the like he's really big name into all this like spiritual and healing stuff in the Tibet. And I started working with her, and like one day she said, "Put your hands on the man's head," and the guy slept. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's sleeping." She said, "Yeah, because you're a healer." And I was like, "What? Like, what is that?" I had no clue. So that was the first thing that triggered it. And like for trauma, like yeah, I really had a big part of being abused on many levels. I had like lots of bullying, And one thing, like one small example of the bullying is I used to be, and I'm still like very skinny. So, and where I come from, like in my village, most of the guys, they are more like butch, they're like more built. And up until maybe 5 or 7 years ago, I used to always buy shirts that are large or extra large, and I wear a small. So it was very interesting to see, like, oh my gosh, how much that is still in me that, like, one day I have to become like them. So it's interesting that pattern. And for the emotional or mental health challenges, I think we all did it. And the way I was dealing with it is like I was so hysteric. It was the hysteria that was coming up, like just staying on the go, just like working so much, like focusing on work, focusing on studying. That was my way out of it. I don't think I ever felt a depression because always the hysteria and the funny part kicks in, which is like a defensive mechanism to take me out of whatever darkness I was in. So yeah, to me, I think that was my coping mechanism with it. And to each person, as you said, have a different mechanism that comes up, and it helped me a lot.
It's kind of that, we're always searching for that safety. And when I say that, I mean our body is, our body's always going to be looking after us. That's why we have fight and flight. That's why we have shut down for when those emergencies happen. But in this modern day life, they tend to get engaged way too much, and all of it's in search of safety and not to be suffering and all of these kind of things. So it's kind of seeing that foundation of everything that's happening for us in this moment is quite empowering. Certainly has been for me. So yeah, thank you so much for just giving us a little insight of kind of what led you into this, because I know you do a lot of work with PTSD, and I wanted to kind of open up with that because we are going to unpack some of the work that you do. But so with PTSD for you, what is it and how does it affect us? So I know this is quite similar to the trauma question, but we're just going to dive more in with that if we can.
Like many types and stress disorders that are really, they can and they should be taken as a mini traumatic stress. Because after a while the cup will be full, and then the mental health kick in. And for the PTSD, like that word has been used for maybe 55 years, and like it was used in the Vietnam War, like had different names, the soldier wounds, and other names as well. Um, so PTSD is like when the survival instinct kicks in, the body releases more cortisol. Like when we go into a trauma at first. So the body and the brain releasing more cortisol, what happens is that um, the limbic system will lose its sense of reality. And those chemicals, they will start being secreted in an overflow. So the heart races, the breathing becomes shallow, quick, and the digestion just like works out. So in this sense, what happens is that the digestive system will be affected as well. And by this overflow of hormones and like other neurotransmitters that are useful or not useful, um, like especially from the locus coeruleus, that we have a lot of flushing of the noradrenaline whenever we are into a fight or fright uh, place. What happens is that the body cannot take it anymore, so it starts to store more fat, and the toxins, they thrive and they live on fat. So we end up with having dysbiosis, leaky gut, SIBO, you name it, any kind of gut problems. And then once the person calms down mentally, the body is already overflowed with those stuff. So when we have a leaky gut, those particles will go from the gut, it will leak into the blood, and it will go to the brain. They pass the blood brain barrier, and the cycle goes back again. The person will be triggered, and more secretion of cortisol and other hormones that will go again, sit in the gut, and the gut will release them and go to the brain. This is why PTSD, many people stay into that loop. It's because sometimes therapists, they don't see how much the body is connected to it from a physiological level. And not to forget that also every trauma that we get, it is stored in our muscles. Rudolf Steiner always says the muscles is the garbage bin of the body. And you see, like Peter Levine spoke a lot about it, that like whenever um, any animal is attacked, once they are out of the attack and into a safe place, they shake their body. And now many therapists are using that technique, and it really works. You really have to shake it out. Go for a massage. And like as you said, like definitely you have seen clients with you who have seen that change in their behavior and their mental state after a massage session. Like seriously, but yep, it happens. You have to try it. Okay, and the more you are oriented into the PTSD and like the mental health, the more you start to know how to trigger stuff or to calm stuff. So another thing that the PTSD affects us, every trauma, what it does to us, it literally, as I said before, it cuts the sense of reality and we lose our roots. And by losing our roots, we lose a sense that, in the anthroposophical term, it's very important, which is the sense of inner warmth. And you see those people that are most of the time cold, right? Even they might have a high fever just because they are trying to bring that warmth element. So there have been done many research, especially in places with catastrophes like tsunamis or earthquakes. The first thing where like the first aid people, what they do is they just cover the person just to keep that warmth inside. And it's very important to me. I have like two blankets on top of every client that I treat, and it's like, yeah, you're hot, you're warm, it's fine. Like if you are too warm, that is not good. But if you are warm, I'm happy because I don't want you to lose it. Especially sometimes with some of the techniques that I use, I might trigger some trauma just to be released from the body. But the sense of warmth is extremely important to always look at. Um, and how so yeah, like I think in that way people can really have a wider perspective, that it's not only in the brain and it's not in the body as the body, it's really also in our like physiology. It really goes to the gut, to the liver, like all the organs are involved. And definitely many people with you spoke about the vagus nerve, and the first muscle that clinches after trauma is the jaw, is the masseter muscle, just because it's the closest to the brain. And you know how all the fascia of the body is related there. So many clients who come see me with lower back pain, I just tell them, rub your jaw, and they go like, oh my gosh, the pain is gone. And it's like, yep, you don't need a session, you're done. And literally it happened many times. You know, just because we hold so much in this jaw muscles and tension that the body cannot relate to it. And you mentioned before about the oxidative stress and like your environment, how much that could be triggered as well. And if you don't mind, I would like to say one of my favorite techniques is craniosacral. You know, and like especially when you do like the cranial hold, you just hold the head in your hands, and fingers, your fingertips will be like on the um, like on between the head and the neck, especially the rectus capitis posterior, major um, and minor. Those muscles, they are not only related to the physically, they are related to the dura. And the dura is where helps like all the spinal cerebral fluid to flow. And whenever we have any disruption in that, mental health problems just start to occur. There have been many research on that. And again, once you take them into that space, many clients, they say, oh my gosh, it took me back to the womb of my mother, and that experience, and that holding, and that like nurturing posture. So in that, there will be lots of release of the trauma. There will be a lot of welcoming back the warmth. I have people like sobbing and crying throughout that technique. Just stay with it. Just allow them to be there and be there for them just by holding their head. It's fascinating how much change you can feel from just a simple technique. So yeah, like I think this is how I see PTSD really affects us, and mainly this is one of the techniques that I cherish myself, and I use it a lot with my clients.
Wow. Thank you so much. There was so much in there. And I was trying to reflect on each part as you said it. I probably lost bits of it. But yeah, I just wanted to, I've had a bit of craniosacral, not that much, but I'm really intrigued to have more of it because, like you said, so much of what's going on is starting up here. I say up here because we're on camera, but in the head area. And, like so if people can understand that your body, our bodies are just insanely intelligent, and they will do their best, their utmost best to help you. But like you said, it's not as simple as just mind, body. You've got the biology, you've got the organs, you've got, like, for example, as a fellow therapist in massage, so many of my clients have no understanding of fascia or any of that. So all they know is that there's a set of these particular set of muscles that they've heard about, and that's about it. So when you start trying to treat them in ways that are a little bit more intelligent, using fascia release and all that kind of stuff, you have to explain that to them, and they love it when you start telling them about it. They're, oh my god, I didn't realize, I'm just this big cocoon of awesomeness, all doing different things, and how they all interact with each other. And if one of those loops is severed, it can have an impact on 2 or 3 other loops of biology. And that's a whole other show, that one. But it's people should really get out there and learn as much as you can about this stuff, because it can give you a lot of the answers of this mysterious stories you keep running in your head, like what's going on for me, why am I always burnt out, why can't I stop eating, why can't I stop exercising, why can't I sleep. There's so much in there that it could be linked to, and as much as we can learn, the better, really. So another big one for us, what we're talking about here today, because I hadn't heard about this before we had our pre-podcast chat, which was the difference. I'm hoping I've written this correctly, but the difference between psychosomatic and somatic psychology. Have I said that correct?
Yeah, like usually they call it somatopsychic or a psychosomatic.
That was it. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
it. So I was intrigued by that because I've only heard of psychosomatic, not the other way around. So yeah, let's know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, like I spoke a bit about it, and as you said, maybe I went too fast in the previous part. But again, it's whenever, like, let's say the psychosomatic, and I think since the late '90s they have been saying that like 80 to 90% of our physical ailments come from our like mental health um, problems or mental health awareness as well. And again, on the other hand, sometimes when people, let's say, they eat lots of sugar, they eat lots of stuff that they are allergic to, or they don't take care of their diet, there will be a problem in, in an organ. And that organ, as I said before, through once, let's take again the example of the gut. Okay, like with the leaky gut, and I know I'm repeating myself, but I'm sure I went too fast before. So with the leaky guts, what happens is that those particles of food that are not digested and excreted, they will go back into the blood, and the blood flow properly will take them to the blood. And I know many of you will say, yeah, but the brain is like protected by the blood-brain barrier. Yes, it is, but some particles can literally go in and they start affecting your your neurons and your axonal activity, and you start losing sometimes sensation in the limb. Some other times you might just like feel your dexterity has been changed, and it's all could be related to the simple fact of you not eating healthy. So this is the part where the somatopsychic kicks in. It's where when your body affects your psyche. So it's not always a psychosomatic. In many ways, it could be a somatopsychic. And again, as I said before, it's a loop. It's so hard sometimes to track what triggered, what was triggered first. The problem is to know that, like, oh, this is the organ that's affecting the mental health, or it's like, oh, it's this mental health problem that is affecting this or that organ. And from there, you can put your plan through therapy. And, like, definitely trust me, like, I have seen amazing results from my clients. So this is the way that I would put it. It's like, is it the psyche that is affecting the body, or is it the body that is affecting the psyche? And I hope that this example was clear enough.
It's kind of like the loops that you're talking about. You're just going around in a loop at that point, because the communication between the two, on some levels is functional, on other levels not so much, because it's been affected by the things that you're talking about. So it's these loops that we kind of get stuck in. Our behaviors don't help that, do they? If we have certain ways of eating, we have habitual behaviors because of trauma. So we have an addiction to food because of trauma, and then talking about all the stuff you're saying here, it's a lot going on there. There's a lot of going up and around. So this is completely off topic question. It's just for me, really. So from a lymph system perspective, does the leaky gut affect lymph, or does lymph tend to stay fairly protected in its function?
The lymph by itself, it's there, like, to protect you, because it have the lymphocyte mainly. So whenever the gut is overloaded, the lymphatic system will go there to help. And then once, like, the lymphocytes are out of juice, then you may start having a problem with uh, the lymphatic system. As I said, as it could be the other way around. There's not enough juice in the lymph. There's not enough immunity in the lymphatic system, and then the guts will just, like, start to be. We all have dysbiosis and sort of leaky guts. Like, we all eat unhealthy in a way. Like, it's just like becoming a normal way of living, right? Um, so it really could be either or that is triggered. But again, this is the way I see it personally. And definitely there are many other views. Throughout all the courses that I've taken, many people see different things. As long as you're giving a good result, see whatever you like, right? So, yeah, so to me, yeah, this is the major thing about it. Like, how can I help to get it more? A really good thing that can help the guts is warmth again. I use a lot a hot water bottle, to allow the person to be more rooted. Warmth really brings you back to your feet. Okay, and I know some people, especially with clients with PTSD, they do like rooting exercise, and this could be extremely triggering. If someone comes to see me and I want to do a rooting exercise, I just take them to their feet. I don't go deep in the earth, because they need their way out, like to springer out and to go into their la la land. And you cannot, from the first time, just bring them in. It's something very important that I've seen with lots of psychotherapists, where their clients got really triggered just by the simple imagine roots getting out of your feet. They flip. So just trying to be more mindful about the person we are treating, and what is their window of tolerance, right? How much they can handle any of that stuff.
Yeah, certainly. And I have to say, like, one of the most probably life-changing questions I was ever asked by my partner. She said to me, let's see how you feel about this, but she said to me, come into your body and tell me if you can find anywhere safe. That's all she said. All right. So I went through an exercise, and we were going to do a bit of rain, one of Tara Brock's practices. I came into my body, and I literally could not find anywhere that didn't either feel on fire, really heavy. I felt so tight. And when I say tight, not just muscles, I'm sure you understand, this kind of enclosed, everything just felt really enclosed. And I had no idea that I felt so disconnected and unsafe in my body until she told me that, and I was able to go on a journey then of, like you said, I start with my feet and try and find safety within them. And it took a long time, I have to say, to start to integrate that. But now I have lots of safe spots. So if I'm starting to get a little bit burnt out, a little bit anxious, I can find those safe anchor points and use that as my way to get back into my body to hold some of the, in inverted commas, negative energy. And I just want to share that because it was the most powerful thing anyone ever said to me. Because I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize that I was having such problems with that.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And this is what warmth does. You know, like even when you put a hot water bottle on your tummy or on your feet, it just takes you into that feeling of like, oh, it feels good and safe. Like subconsciously, it just takes you there. I would really like you and our audience to try it and to see the effect of it. And again, hot water should be in it. It should not be linked to any electrical, like it's not the heating pad. It's so interesting how much our parents and grandparents had the wisdom about treating stuff and we just took it for granted.
yeah, I mean, there's so many of these nurturing things that you just don't think about, but there's a reason, even as kids, that we're brought up in that way as a baby, and we're told to do certain things because it helps the baby's nervous system start to regulate. We miss all these bits out for whatever reason, but very, very powerful way of grounding. If you're talking about being safe and social from a polyvagal perspective, what does safe and social look like for you? Because it could be different for everybody. And they may say, go and do this. I did a post today about, or yesterday from Bezel, about the importance of play and all this kind of stuff. But like someone said, what if you're triggered by play? There has to be another form of safety for them. But that's why you said, when clients walk into a space with you, you're able to really get a sense of what would be the safest approach rather than the right approach is the safest one, because you could re-trigger them, and that's the last thing you want to do, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely.
Definitely. So, you have mentioned this quite a bit in your other answers. So I think all our questions are just merging together. But we're going to roll with it. We're going to keep doing the questions. So we've got, how do our organs affect us on a holistic level? So do you feel what you've told us about so far is alluding to what effect organs really do have?
No, actually, I was keeping the answer for this question. Yeah, like if we talk about, for example, the four major organs, which are like the lungs, the kidneys, the liver, and the heart. Each one of them have a specific influence on our mental health. So this is why at the beginning, when I said about depression could mainly come whenever the liver is in distress. It could be the phase one, phase two detoxification. It could be a bit of like fatty liver, which can be triggered by any kind of toxins or even heavy metal. Even if we drink like unclear water, that can happen. And then the mental health, especially depression, starts to kick in. If you will talk a bit about the lungs are mainly related to the melancholic aspect. People who worry a lot, people who are so anxious, um, people who have a bit of like OCD, because you always see them into this like, oh my gosh, you did this. So there's really always this gasping of air that is happening on that level. And kidneys, the kidneys that are related to the hysteric element, because it just takes you out of your body and you're just living in la la land. And this is how I lived my childhood, just like in my own la la land, like jumping, running, having fun. Again, like with all the trauma that happened, that was my only way out. This is why your first question, this is how it got, this is how it hit me. So it's just like my kidneys got triggered and I was like, yay, life is good, let's enjoy it. And then the heart has a very specific place, which is literally in the middle of the chest or the body, if you want to take it like without the lower limb. And it's there where like the bipolar um, and the maniacal depressive personality sets. Okay, and you can see it like with people, and again, like mainly this is related to anthroposophy and to how Rudolf Steiner and other anthroposophist doctors have seen how the mind and the body can be connected. So to me, I always try to take that into perspective, maybe give them like a bit of plants to drink just to ease off their mind, ease off that specific organ. Try to give a massage to that organ, try to release that organ into like with like visceral manipulation. It always helps once you know what is the trigger or like what organ triggered what aspect, and it changes because that I'm keeping for my next question.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think that's such a power. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's so powerful because people always think of those organs as being what you're told in school. Your heart pumps blood around your body, your lungs bring in, does your oxygenation systems, and your liver does this, your kidney does that, and we're just told the basics, aren't we, rather than the some of the stuff you're discussing there, which is amazing. I'm learning lots to hear today, and I hadn't heard of that before. So the one bit, off topic question again, so what are your thoughts on reflexology? Is that something that you're happy with? Does it make sense?
Yeah, it always makes sense as long as you open the pathways to the reflexology, which is like the E36, which is like around the knee, below the knee on the outside. So E36, which is the stomach 36 point, it really allows the energy to flow better into the feet and from the feet back into the body. I've seen many therapists who just like press on the foot without preparing the leg for the energy flow. It might work, but I ask them like just try to trigger that point or like put a needle or whatever and then go and do the reflexology, and the effect was like much quicker. So as I said before, like I am open to everything, like everything is a possibility whenever it's needed. As I said, with someone who doesn't like to be rooted, if you give them a reflexology session, it's you might really trigger a depressive component in them. Okay. And one more thing I would like to add is like about how the planet also affects us. Like those four organs that are related to planets. So, like, oh yeah, it's a full moon, everyone's crazy today. Like, yeah, we got crazy. So it's really important to really just keep an open mind that everything is possible and you have the full power to control it if you are aware of it and if you have the knowledge and the tools for it. Okay, so that is also important for people to know that you can control it all.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, like I think you mentioned it earlier on about, when we're receiving or sitting in a space, I don't say receiving because we're not healing people, that, we're awakening the healer within them, all that kind of stuff. But it's thinking about how when people are going to choose a modality that they want to hopefully help them, it's remembering that sometimes it's not even about the modality, it's about the therapeutic relationship, what resonates with them, do they feel safe, what are they willing to learn, what's the intention. All of these things are part of the healing experience, and that's why it's so good to have such a wealth of modality approaches and belief systems around this. And that's the main thing for me. Oh, drop my microphone. That's the main thing to think about, I think, with all this, which is why I'm so excited today, just to learn about things that are new so I can open my mind. But let's dive into biography. I'm very excited to talk about this. So that is our next one. So let's dive in. Let us know more.
Yeah, so the biography also, it's like maybe an anthroposophical aspect. And definitely many people have heard about like autobiography and people write about their story. So if we will talk about a bit about how people with trauma or PTSD, what happens with them is that they lose their identity. So they become homeless. And it's about a soul homelessness. And it's not a geographical homelessness, like they remember from where they come from. But it's like they are lost. So the biography work, it really helps them to connect to previous memories that happened with them and how they can get over, not to get over their trauma, but like how to find back their identity. Like the trauma might stay there, but there will be a bit of more of an awareness that like I exist here, but my trauma is a bit outside of me now. It's not taking all over me and I'm lost. So the biography work is like a parable. It's like a U shape mainly. So it starts like with 7 year sequences. So it goes like, for example, from 0 to 7. It's related to the moon. So it's and the moon is only about growth. Um, and then 7 to 14, it's related to Mercury, and we see Mercury how much it's about connection, and like we see children at that age how much they try to like connect with other people and make tons of friends, and like they are extremely social. And then we start um, the adolescence mainly from the age of 14 to 21, and then that is like where Venus kicks in, our body change, our sensuality, sexuality kicks in. And then from the age of 21 to 42, it's a big phase. But that is where the sun takes place. So it's really where you start to build up your own self and see if you want to go upwards or if you just like done and you want to give up your life. So this is why when you mentioned that your trauma that happened at the age of like around the age of 30, it's very interesting because in the middle of that U shape, we have the Christ age, which is 33. And it's like really an awakening age to take all what you have learned from 0 to that age and take it and see the fruits of it later on. And we continue, like, for example, like 42 to 49, we have the planet Mars that takes over, where people like feel extremely energetic. I had clients who were in their like 30s, and they go like, oh my gosh, I don't know once I hit 40 how I will be. And once they hit 40, you just feel like there's this drive, there's this like strength that's coming into you that's unbelievable. Like this force that's pushing you to be extremely productive in your life while you were not as much before. And then like you go from 49 to 56 into Jupiter, and then Saturn 56 to 63. And every part of them is really um, interesting from different aspects. I'll give you an example. When we were back in Switzerland, we were doing this study on ourselves, and we were studying each part. And of course, I was mainly in my hysteric, everything's fine, blah, 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 blah. And we had one of the people with us, one of my colleagues, who once she hit, I think she was around like maybe 48, because she was 56 when she did it. At the age of 48, she went totally paralyzed, and she was not been able to move. She was on a wheelchair for like a year. She was happily married, beautiful kids, everything was fine. So once she went and she did the biography study with another group, what she realized is that on the parallel of 49, if you go back straight to your childhood, it was the age of 14. It was then when she was raped and sexually molested. And she totally forgot about it. Imagine at that age, she literally forgot about it. She said, I can't remember anything from my childhood, and it was related to that. So this is why biography study is important, to know at what age the trauma was triggered in the body. And yes, you might have a trauma your um, throughout your birthing process. While you were birthed to this earth, something might have happened, and you may only experience it at the age of 33 or any other age. So it's always important to have a proper history of what happened, and just know what fraction of of the biography and what sequence is mainly triggered. So we took her there again throughout the process, and we made her remember more funny stuff about family and things, just to take her out from her condensed experience, because it was very tough on all of us who have experienced it with her. On the other hand, what we can see is like also through this biographical study is like from the age of 18 months to the age of 7 years, it's where like the GI system and the thyroid get their utmost maturation. So people who have problems or any kind of trauma around that age, mainly it will be reflected later on at any age, um, into their GI tract and their thyroid. The other aspect of it, like for example, the endocrine system gets its maturation from 11 to 14 years. The respiratory process, or the lungs, they get it from 7 till 14 years old. So any kind of trauma in that age will hit the kidney, will hit the lungs, and later on we will find, as we spoke before, the obsessional or the melancholia or the extreme anxiety. So this is why everything is really interconnected and intertwined, and you cannot miss one section. So the central nervous system gets its maturation from the age of 22 till 28. Again, any kind of problem or trauma or extreme trauma happening at that age, this is where the body will take it. And you see it a lot with people, with soldiers who go to war and who experience stuff, and they are in that range of like between 22 to 28. And literally, they end up with like Parkinson's disease, they end up with Alzheimer's, they end up like just on a wheelchair, they cannot move. And it's very interesting to really have a proper image about what happens, what organ was maturating, what biographical phase are you in, how is this planet affecting you, and what organ is in play, so that you can have a global aspect about the healing process. This is the way I work. And again, what plant could help to ease up that process or even that organ to affect the mental health that is showing up?
Wow, this is taking holistic to a whole other level. Like you said, it's thinking about your timeline as well as this moment and previous experiences and when that may show up. So, I'm gonna when I edit this show, I'm gonna listen to this all back so I can take it in better. But this is absolutely fascinating stuff. Like I said, I'm sure it's going to be useful to the audience. And yeah, you articulated that so well, and obviously you know your stuff because I can see you're not reading anything. You just know this stuff, which is amazing. So, does this tie in? Our next question is actually about spiritual science and anthropology. I'm just going to say it that way because that's how it's coming out of my mouth. So, do those two things tie into a lot of what you've just been saying, or does that go on a slightly different path as well?
Yeah, no, like they are all intertwined. As I said, like when someone comes to see me, I mainly do manual osteopathy, but in that there is really lots of techniques that will kick in. Like sometimes I use applied kinesiology, just to trigger something to release something else. It's not always like A, B, C, D. And I cannot put a plan, like I cannot put a proper plan, especially for people with PTSD, because it depends how they show up the next time. Like it's very hard to say, yeah, today I will work on this, tomorrow I will work on the neck, the third. It does not work like this with people with PTSD and severe trauma. You have to put your plan once they come in to your office. And like spiritual science or anthroposophy, Rudolf Steiner called it spiritual science because, like many people, it's very hard for them to articulate the word because we are all used to anthropology, and our brain gut always says, "Oh yeah, you studied anthropology," and I was like, "Nope, it was Anthroposophy, which is the spiritual science of men." Um, so, like, let's talk a bit about just how we get sick. So we have four currents that come in and out of us. So everything starts with an allergy. It could be an allergy towards a partner, um, uh, around your partner, an allergy towards family, an allergy towards, I don't know, your environment, a tree, a herb. So once this allergy kicks into your body, what it does is like it just goes um, into your gut and it starts to go up to the spine. Because in anthroposophy, we separate the body, we don't separate, we divide the body into like head, chest, and limbic system. So the head is enclosed, it's always closed, it's where everything is very rigid. The rhythmic system is the heart and the lungs where things really flow and allow you to go to your space and then come back in. And then you have the enteric or the limbic system that's like always open and take you places, and it's where your will sits and your actions sit. So the allergies first starts in the guts. And from the gut, it starts to go up to the brain. This is why people with allergies, if the heart cannot harmonize it, they start to have runny nose, right? It's just because of this like spiritual influence that's starting from the gut and going upwards. So, and all the gut system is all about water and things are flowing. So we start to have like runny nose, runny eyes, like cannot talk, and like phlegma in the chest and all this. So the body to defend itself, the brain start to push it down by giving a sclerotic aspect. So the sclerotic aspect is like Parkinson at an extreme stage, of course, but it's arthrosis. It's where things really start to dry up. And this is how the body defends by itself. So this allergy that's coming up, what it needs something to tame it down, which is sclerosis. So if the sclerosis go down and the heart cannot regulate it and start to go to the limbic system, the intestine cannot take it because the intestine is always flowing and working and like 24/7 does not stop. So the reaction that comes from the gut towards this process, it's something called inflammation. And this is where the inflammation kicks in to push the sclerotic aspect up. And you see people will start with uh, arthrosis, but they will end up with RA, like rheumatoid arthrosis, which is like an inflamed aspect of it. And then once the inflammation goes up and it cannot be controlled by the rhythmic system, the brain reacts by giving tumor, because tumor is where the inflammation has been encapsulated and set into different places in the body. From like lymph node tumor, I'm not saying cancer specifically, but this is what mainly anthroposophy and spiritual science, I mean, this is maybe 0.05% of what we were taught at the course. But to me, it's a very interesting way to see how the client is showing up today and what's happening and what process is more. So, what do I need to give him today? Do I need to give him more space or do I need to condense him? Do I need to go into more this allergy inflammation or do I need to go more into like this tumor forming and condensing stuff in his body? It's a very interesting way, and I can see in your eyes like I don't know what you're talking about, but it's really an amazing process because again, through the massage, the rhythmical massage, we don't apply pressure. It's mainly through suction. So we do suction with our hands to allow the spirit and the psyche to go wherever they want and then bring them back in. So there's always this breathing movement of in and out.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned, about the massage when we were talking before about lifting, creating space rather than pushing down and pushing in and pushing out, push in, push out kind of issues. And you're talking about creating space there. But just to touch on, I was using it was my thinking face you were seeing. So I was trying to process all the stuff you were saying. And I'm kind of there. I'm kind of getting what you're talking about on the thing that I just can't believe how, humans are so amazing, aren't they, really, across all levels, how our body functions, mind, and no matter what your belief systems are, you can't deny that we are amazing beings however we manifested ourselves. But, from a kind of what I really like about you saying about allergy, so allergy to not just the obvious stuff, but kind of the way we interact with those around us and how our body may respond to that. I'm kind of on board with that logic. So how do you feel like resistance plays a part in everything you've been talking about? How we're so good at resisting things, aren't we, as humans? We resist pain. We want to resist. We don't want to feel pain, so we resist it. Do you feel that resistance can impact a lot of things you talked about today?
Absolutely. And again, I don't always see it as resistance. I sometimes see it as denial or spiritual bypass. Like when someone tells you, "Oh, just focus on your third eye and everything will go away," and it's like, no, like deal with it. The third eye will not help you now. Like what's happening? Sometimes denial is helpful, and some people say it like, "Oh, he's resistant," or that person is resistant, or he's more stubborn. But sometimes it's just like a denial. It's like a bypass. I'm not going there. Let's go somewhere else. This is the hysteric person. That like, oh, I'm not living in my body. I'm just living into like, yay, life is good. Let's enjoy it. So that aspect, it really does not make you aware of what's happening inside. To me, being conscious and being aware of any kind of problems that we have, it's like solving half of it. It's the solution. It's half of the solution. Just being aware of what's going on. The same with food. You tell someone, oh, stop eating sugar because, I don't know, something might happen to you. Oh, no, I'm fine. I only eat like um, one crab or, I don't know, like one bar of chocolate a day. I stopped eating two, so I'm fine. Sure. It's as you said, like this resistance could be sometimes denial, and it's very hard to bring those back to reality.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring awareness into that too, because I find, for my personal journey, as soon as I become more aware of my existence, really, how my body is in any given moment, what my thoughts are up to, when I become a compassionate observer and become aware of these things, that was the hardest part to overcome. Once I'd done that, I was able to go, okay, right now I have much more of a clearer picture of what's going on, not all of it, but a lot of it. And then I was able to build from there. That was my foundation of going, I could even go into denial state, but be aware that I've just gone into denial and say, I've gone into
Absolutely.
denial. So then
Yeah.
it empowers me every time to go, this trigger that I've just had or this response I've just given, I'm aware just directly afterwards about what I've just done and go, that's interesting. I was triggered by that. I wonder why that is, and become curious in a really gentle way. And that changed everything for me. So now I get to go on this journey of having a deeper understanding of what all of these things are. But like you said, once you've got to the point of being aware and understanding it on a certain level, you can really start to transform things as you go through. And that's certainly been even my journey from doing this podcast and learning all of these things and becoming more aware of what else I could be aware of. I can still be more aware of awareness. If you see what I mean, which is amazing. So I love the fact that we've managed to somehow get through all of these questions. I don't know how we pulled it off in the time frame we've had. And it's given us, I think, a really nice introduction to all of these things. I'm sure it would make a sense to bring you back on, like I've said for my previous guests, if we want to dive deeper into some of these things, which I'm sure we will. So for the audience that are listening, who have taken in what they do know, learned lots of new things, and like me are going, I need to go away and think about that, what would be your like final insight? So for people who are about to or are currently on a journey of reconnection, shall we say, what would be your insight as a professional on how they can do this in the best, safest, whatever word you want to use, way possible?
Um, to me, since you mentioned best, safest way, just always keep warm. Whenever you feel triggered, try to really have a hot shower, a warm bath. Like Epsom salt helps just because of the magnesium. A hot water bottle should be in every house, in every clinic. It's always helpful because it forces you to connect to yourself. Once you feel the heat on your tummy, it's just like whatever is happening here, all your consciousness will go to that heat and you will start to be more connected to your guts or to your legs or to your chest. Anywhere you feel a bit of pain, just apply it there, and it's always comforting just to feel it. To me, like even sometimes when I'm like so triggered or I have so many things to do and I don't know where to start, I just make a hot water bottle, put it on my tummy for 10 minutes, and it's like, okay, now I'm ready. Just because it really calms your thinking. Because it brings, as I said, it's like as if it's pushing this inflammation that is happening in the brain with all the thoughts and like the beehive, with all the bees inside, it just like takes them into the beehive. And this is what we need from time to time, just like to calm the mind down for 5-10 minutes a day minimum. And it's a very safe tool to it. Okay, and whenever anyone has a pain in any part of his body, like touch it, touch the pain, try to move the skin back and forth, up and down. Try to pinch a bit, like gentle pinching, not very. And through this pinching, you're giving space to that fascia to breathe more. So just like really explore with yourself in a gentle and safe way, as you mentioned before.
Thank you. That's really lovely. And, we always try and encourage, the sharing of daily practice, opportunities to do daily practices, things that can bring our nervous system back to a bit more regulation. And a lot of what you're talking about today is this another fantastic daily practice, which is very accessible. It doesn't take a hell of a lot to do. And I'm hoping bit by bit, people are getting resourced with all these amazing resources like the one you've just explained there. And now I'm feeling inclined to get down to the shop and get myself a hot water bottle for sure. um,
It always helps. And funnily enough, like here it is.
there it is. It's for anyone that's listening, it's a red hot water bottle. So there you go.
It's a red hot water bottle,
This is
exactly.
even a warm
So
color.
yeah, like it's a very easy resource. You don't have to think. There are no steps like any other meditation or breathing technique that I love and I use a lot. It's just something easy. Open the tap, put your hands under hot water for a couple of seconds. Just really feel the warmth going from your hands to your heart. That's it. Just connect. Easy way to connect.
I love it. Thank you very much. It's probably one of the easiest daily practices we've ever been offered. So that's absolutely awesome. So I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. I have honestly found this unbelievably fascinating. And I really hope those that have listened to have felt the same way.
Well, thank you so much, Owen, for this opportunity. And as you said, hopefully in the future we'll do something different or something. We'll take one aspect and speak about it deeply, just because I spoke briefly about many things. Um, and I hope the audience will find some resources and some comfort in what we discussed today, and keep having an open mind. And thank you again.
No, thank you. And I've had that on my last couple of guests. The same with our joint friend Victoria, where we covered a lot in small sections. So I think between the two of you, we probably covered a lot of modalities in sort of two sittings, which is amazing.
Yeah, no, I was saying that like Victoria and I have been planning to do a live together on Instagram, and it's like, oh, I'm busy this weekend. Oh, I'm busy this weekend. Oh, like either, yeah, but hopefully we'll plan it soon.
Yeah, oh god, that'd be absolutely amazing. And for anybody, I'm going to put links to to all your various social media and websites anyway. But yeah, come and check out Elias's Instagram and just check out some of the posts that you're doing, and the same for Victoria too. Because if you're doing lives together, that is a must watch for anybody. I'm just going to thank our patrons a second, and now I'm going to find out what's next for you. As much as we can discuss that in 2020, of course. So I just want to say a huge thank you to all our patrons for their support on Patreon. Your contributions, monthly contributions to me, mean the world to me and allow me to do amazing things like this and have amazing conversations. So thank you, Michael Morgan, Emerald McLeod, Maggie Palmer, Daniel Billing, Roland Chesters, Hannah Irvin, Karen Goodson, Julie Ferris, Stella Stati, and of course, Stephen Truelove and Daryl Osborne, my co-host on my other show. The only thing about loads of you signing up to be patrons, it's going to take me probably a whole episode to seal your names. But please sign up. It really, really helps me. You can sign up at the Man Cove Wellbeing community at the link in the description of this video, or visit www.patreon.com/MCW. There's a range of benefits there. And we've also got our coaching coves coming later this year, which is a safe space for men to talk with all our amazing coaches and therapists. And we'll just have a big group live where we can all help each other out. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a great benefit. You can find out more about us at mancovewellbeing.com. So, Elias, what is next for you? Can you predict what you're going to do this year? Is that possible?
I already predicted and planned it, so I canceled all my trips. As I told you, we mentioned before, usually I travel to see clients abroad, like either in the Gulf area, Kuwait, and other places, or like the Middle East and Lebanon and the States. So this year I just canceled them all. I'm focusing on my clinic here with my two psychotherapist colleagues. Hopefully, we'll start building up that clinic more and like be more present. Again, the name is Psychosomatic Trauma Initiative. This is what we called it, and yeah, like they use EMDR, they use a lot of other techniques, and to me, we are really working amazingly together. So, and of course, studying, trying to graduate this year, better than next year. So we'll see, we'll see. But like mainly, this is my main focus. I canceled all my trips, no trips in my brain. Just focus on those stuff, work and studying, and helping others and helping them find their path easier and enjoy their path.
It's amazing. It's time to grow and learn. I think that is what this year needs to be now, because we have more space than we traditionally would have. So I think it's very important to use it that way. So what's the best place, social media wise? Is Instagram where you're most active? Do you have a presence on Facebook?
Yeah, yeah, like I am on both. Um, like especially with the time difference, like if someone have question, just like give me um, 12 or 24 hours. You know, like now it's noon here. There it's like should be maybe
It's
5:30.
5:30. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's 12:30 here. So just like because of the time difference, people should be a bit more mindful of that. But of course, any question, I'm happy to answer.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. So I'll put links into everything. But yeah, please, everybody
Thank you,
come and check out the social medias and such like. So thank you once again for joining me today.
thank you, Owen, and have a nice evening.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening at home. We'll be back next time with some more wellness chitty chat. As always, I have some unbelievable guests lined up. I'm recording with another one just after this recording, so two today, and he's amazing too. So it's just I feel very blessed with the amazing human beings I get to spend time with. So have a wonderful day. Stay safe, support your friends, and please, please take care of your nervous system. You take care of that, and it will take care of you, and you can have an amazing life, hopefully. So take care of it. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.